Good morning, friends. Thanks for joining this morning here for our morning sit at Journey Home Meditation. Yeah, it is good to be here today. It is good to be here. I'm happy to be joining each of you that could make it here, whether you're just listening at any time or you're here for the live morning sit. And even if you're not here, I'm happy that you're doing what you're doing. And even when I'm not happy, I'm happy to be here. I've been thinking about sadness lately. Let's have a cup of tea. Sadness is sadness is not the opposite of happiness, and I know that doesn't seem logical. It seems to be most logical that happiness and sadness are these two edges of an emotional way of being, but I think that these are just two varied expressions of an emotional body. I mean, that's it's almost like saying that stillness and running are opposites, and I don't believe that they're opposites. They're just two different things. They don't oppose one another. Sitting still is not sitting in opposition to running necessarily, and running is not necessarily being in opposition to sitting still. Now, of course, we can look deeper into a philosophical mindset or check out, the depth of the psychology behind the intention of sitting still or running and see if we have some opposition there, some contradiction or contrary sort of intentions. But in and of itself, they're just two different states of being. And this is the same with happiness and sadness. And just as much as um, happiness serves its purposes for us, right? Happiness gives us a place of being that we want to strive towards in some ways. We enjoy being happy. I enjoy being happy. Maybe I haven't always. There's probably been times in my life where happiness was something I didn't feel I needed or wanted or deserved. And that last one's probably the biggest, right? We have a belief that we don't deserve happiness. We deserve some sort of punishment or isolation, or maybe we just haven't earned happiness yet. I will be happy down the road, right? Once I get that promotion, well, then I'll be happy. Once I get paid next week, then I'll be happy. Right now, I can't afford to be happy. And we treat happiness sometimes in our lives as a prize to be coveted and It's only awarded to those who truly earn it. And then, by the same notion, we treat sadness as something that you've earned for yourself. If you're sad, it's because it's something you did wrong. It's a punishment of some sort. But I don't see it to be either beneficial to view happiness and sadness in these ways, nor do I see it to have any physiological evidence. When we look at some of the studies that neuroscience has been doing, the past couple of decades, I think that they are, in the words of the Dalai Lama, just getting started. You're just starting to catch up. But we look at some of those studies. And we see the studies that have been done on people from all over the world, different cultures all over the world, people of different and varying levels of uh, class, and whose lives have different levels of stress and pain or ease. And we see some pretty stark similarities, right, across the board in the ways in which our bodies respond and react to stimuli. And that's pretty much all we can study when it comes to neuroscience. We can get some good ideas about some possible reasons for behaviors based upon how our brains and bodies react to stimuli. And one of the things that seems to be true is that every expression of emotion is somehow able to be registered through these studies of stimuli and response. And it can be hypothesized that every expression of emotion has a beneficial impact on our lives in its purpose. And I know that this seems maybe a bit far fetched to some people who suffer in their sadness. How could this possibly be for my benefit? But there's an interesting thing that I found, and I actually don't have the study in front of me right now to cite it for you, but if I remember later today, I'll put that up on Journey Home Meditation's Facebook page. That there is studies that show that sadness can trigger the same parts of the brain as empathy and compassion. And this all takes place in the amygdala, apparently, which I'm saying that as if I know what I'm talking about. I just read it. I just saw cute little cartoons. But it helped me to come to an understanding. And when I say understanding, what I really mean is it helped to validate my bias. It helped to make me believe that what I already know is right, which is what we really love to do, isn't it? We really love to know that that what we think is correct, and we'll do anything to find the evidence to prove it. But uh, at any rate, the study shows that sadness starts triggering the parts of the brain responsible for empathy and compassion. And behavioral studies have shown that people experiencing sadness are often more likely to participate in charitable events, more likely to give more of their belongings to others in need. Um, so, this shows me right there that happiness and sadness are not opposites, that they are both amazing levels of awareness as to who we are and what we are doing here. But just like anything, When we get stuck in one singular expression, the world becomes monotonous and drab, and we suffer. We suffer. Even happiness. When we get stuck in only being able to chase and feel and love and enjoy happiness. It's that the only time that we can enjoy life is when we are feeling what we would characterize as happy. Then, too, life becomes a place of suffering. So I was thinking about that the last couple of days, thinking about happiness and sadness and the roles that it plays in our lives. When pleasure and displeasure, I think, tend to be more of the motivating factors for our unconscious behaviors. And when I say unconscious, I don't mean a layer of consciousness, such as the way our kidneys or our livers function, but this kind of subconsciousness, this layer just below our level of consciousness, where we are having what I call the unconscious driver. Right? We're still driving the vehicle, but we're not really aware of the motivations for our behaviors, and we're not really allowing ourselves to understand the reasons that we are feeling and behaving in such ways. And we pleasure seek and we run from displeasure. And we chalk this up to human nature. We think this is the natural state to run from things that are displeasuring. We run from things we don't like. Stay in school, kids. And we run towards things that give us pleasure. And talking to a lot of people, they would just say that that's what we are wired to do. And even this language of being wired, or this is treating us as if we are some sort of machine. This itself even perpetuates that unconsciousness, right? It makes us believe that we're these flesh and bone robots, when really there are so many subtle interactions occurring at any moment where our mythologies and our memories sort of mix and meld into these amalgamous like beings of fantasy and material all at the same time. Like, we are made of these things, and these interactions are constantly happening, from the triggering of the smallest of scent into a memory to uh, the conscious knowing that we are dying. Even that isn't based upon interactions of all of these myths and memories. And there'll be bonus points for anybody who picks up on all of the band names that I've used in this talk in the last few minutes. But coming back to the point, happiness and sadness is not a static state, and it is not its own isolated experience. It is entangled, all mixed up with so many layers of this experience. And in so many ways, we start placing who we think we are in the midst of all of that. We think we are a person who is happy. We think we are a person who is sad. The is really big there. We think we should be happy. We think we should not be sad. But I am happy to be sad sometimes. I am happy to be able to have such a rich experience that I can be within a state of longing and sorrow. Because that tells me that I'm connected. And this is the counterpart of something. This is the opposite, not of happiness, but of loneliness. And even my loneliness can connect me, which you have to love the contradiction. The Banksons is an amazing musical group. They do all sorts of amazing things. It's Bengson, the Banksons, and they have a song where she goes into automatic singing of sorts. It's a bit improvisational. She does this often, and it's this really beautiful stream of consciousness that allows both her and us as the listener to kind of be in that same moment at the same time. And one of the things that she says in a song on their Facebook page, I believe is the only place I've seen this version, is she says, "My longing is my belonging, an umbilicus connecting us, a rope of hope." And she's talking about her sadness. She's talking about her sorrow. She's talking about her grief and how beautiful that is, how happy I am that she's talking about that. Now, we've talked also in the past about the difference between happiness and grateful, right? I could say I'm grateful for her for that, but I am honestly in this moment happy. It does bring a smile to my face and it makes me feel a spark of joy to be able to know not only that I'm not alone, but that you're not alone, that she's not alone. I think some of this thought was brought on yesterday. I went with my family to see a film that's in theaters right now that I recommend called American Fiction. And the film stars Jeffrey Wright and K. Sterling Brown, and um, the film touches on the powerful effect of lifelong grief, of disconnection. That's one of the themes within the movie. There's a few themes, and it's a really, really good film. But from a very selfish perspective, one of the things I really enjoyed, it made me actually feel something really deeply, was that the filmmaker, the writer and screenwriter and director of the film is Cord Jefferson. And I grew up with Cord in our friend group. Cord is a friend of ours. Uh, and we weren't extremely close, but we were a part of the same community of DIY punk kids making art to make art, making art for ourselves and for each other. It wasn't about anything else. It was about us in that time and place. And we did beautiful things. And in my life, that time period was very formative for me. It helped to form a strong ethic that I live by to this day, and that ethic of not DIY so much, do it yourself, but do it together. Just make it happen. Whatever it is that you want to see in the world, just find a way to create it. Just create it. Don't worry about how it's going to be funded or who's going to appreciate it. You just got to start by doing what you can with what you have. Do what you can with what you have. And we built amazing things. We did amazing things. This was the 90s and the hardcore and punk scene in Tucson, Arizona. And out of that ethos and that particular group of friends has sprung so many amazing people, loving, caring people, wonderful parents, hospice nurses, librarians, um, rock stars, and writer directors, award winning writer directors, amazing things. But the thing that really, really struck me beyond just the nostalgia, there's a scene in the movie where Cord plants a nice little gift for all of us Tucson kids. And there's a list of book titles that they're writing on a marker board, and all of those book titles are the names of bands from our scene in Tucson in the 90s. And a couple of these bands were bands that I was in that really meant the world to me then. And looking back, I hold in such a dear, dear, tender place in my being. And some of those relationships have faltered. Some of those relationships have shifted and changed. And some of those people that I was close to in that time are no longer alive. And some of them no longer want to be in connection anymore. But the fact that this person who I was friends with over 2 decades ago was so moved by what we shared together in that time and space that over 2 decades later, he pays an homage to that. It's as if Cord was just dropping a little thing saying, know who you are, know where you are from, so that you can know what's driving you now. And I felt this like rush, and maybe a lot of this is just me, but I felt this rush of love that I'm not the only one who looks at that experience with such fondness. I'm not the only one who feels formed by that time and those things. And there's a lot of happiness involved there, and there's a lot of sadness involved there. And I'm just so grateful to, to carry both of those things. And I'm really grateful to Cord for putting that into the world, and I could see it. And it just felt so beautiful. It was the connection, which is the opposite of loneliness. There are not a lot of opposites in the world. So maybe connection and loneliness are not opposites. Maybe they are just levels of awareness. But whatever is happening there, there can always be gratitude. So, as I sit and I think about my sadness and my happiness and all of those places in between, I just think how grateful I am. How grateful I am. So, if you want to find your meditation posture with me, we can meditate this morning on what we're grateful for. How we can be grateful to be sad. We can even be happy to be sad. But whatever you're doing, wherever you are right now, your meditation posture simply looks like a place of balance. And this is a devotional practice to our breath. So everything that we want to do with our body is to facilitate our breath. Lengthening the spine, letting the shoulders relax, bringing the shoulder blades together just slightly in the back, opening the chest and the heart, leveling your chin, breathing in through the nose to the bottom of the belly. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in gratitude. Breathe out. I am grateful. Just be with the breath. Even if just for a few moments. Feel the entirety of your being in the breath. Find who you are and love all of the different ways that you think you are you along the way. Forgive yourself. Feel the sadness that you feel to say goodbye. Feel the joy of hello. Feel the happiness of connection along the way. Just love it. Just be gentle and love it. Feel the body expand with each in breath as we grow large with life. And feel the body contract with each out breath as we grow large with death. Just let it flow. When you're ready, you can slowly begin to move the body and open the eyes. And bring that level of conscious awareness of all of that love and that sadness, that happiness, all of that. Just bring it with you. And today, when you find yourself speaking automatically, stop and hear the words that you're saying and find the depth of the realness of them. So when you talk about your happiness today, feel it. Feel your happiness. And feel the things that you don't talk about as well. Let them in and let them move through you. Thanks for being here today. If you'd like to reach out and connect with me, you can email me at journeyhomemeditation@gmail.com. You can also check out what we're up to here at Journey Home Support Services by going to journeyhome.care, CARE. And if you want to get involved, feel free to reach out. I'd be happy to talk to you. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Adios.